Good evening. We want to welcome you tonight to our broadcast, live stream. And so Wednesday night Bible study. So if we look at this, we want to continue on with obedience. We didn't finish it last week because we ran into 1 Samuel. There was a lot of meat there that we tried to cover. Some of it, couldn't get all of it in there, but we got some of it. And so as a review, before we jump on into where we're going to go tonight, I want to talk about the first thing was Adam and Eve, and we talked about why be obedient, right? Why do children obey parents? Why do military personnel obey their commanding officers and those kind of things? And why do we obey our bosses and different things? And some of it came out of fear, and then also it came out of respect and love. And so tonight we want to continue to look at this, but we'll change perspective a little bit. But just as a reminder, remember Adam and Eve and how they were disobedient to God. And anytime you're disobedient, there's some consequences. We talked about that. Adam and Eve were disobedient when they was eating of the fruit of the tree that God told them not to eat of. And once they did, consequences came in where God told Adam that he would work by the sweat of his brow. He told Eve that she would in labor, she would bring forth a child now in childbearing in labor, intense labor. And so then we know Satan, he said some things to him too as well. And on the ground, he should be from now on. And then we talked about Noah in Noah chapter 6, Genesis chapter 6, verse number 14. We talked about Noah. And so I want you to bookmark that, because we'll come back to that this afternoon. But we talked about Noah and how God gave him direction to build the ark. And we talked about how in there, God looked at the world and said, it's evil. The intent of man is evil, and I'm going to destroy the world. I'm going to wipe it away. But he said, no, but I'm going to give you a saving place, because I found grace in your sight. I found you were right with me. And so in doing so, we understand and we realize that even today's time, what we're going through, what we're dealing with the pandemic, what we're dealing with social injustices, we find that in today's time, the church is still God's saving place. And we got to make sure we stay within the church that he found to be saved. And we have to do things according to the way that he said do them. He gave Noah the instructions in building the ark and said, this is exactly how you have to do it. And then the Bible says in verse 22, and Noah followed the commands of God as God told him to do so. And so we found that Noah was obedient to God in that regard. And then we talked about Saul in 1 Samuel chapter 15, 1 through 23. And we see there and we found that Saul, because of his disobedience, he played the blame game, kind of like Adam and Eve did, right? And that's what we can't teach our kids, how to play the blame game, or teach other people how to play the blame game. We have to take responsibility for what we do. But we find that with Adam and Eve, with Samuel, we found with Samuel that he played the blame game. And he said, then people brought these animals back, once again, their intent was right, but it wasn't with what God told them to do. And so we see where he says, God rather have your obedience than your sacrifices. That's a key lesson within itself. I want you to remember that tonight. Again, God would rather have your obedience than your sacrifices. And then we know that because of Saul's disobedience, he was not able to become king. And that was a consequence to him sinning. That was a consequence to him being disobedient to God. And so don't let the devil tell you that sin don't have consequences, because they do. And so tonight we want to look at, we'll start with 1 Peter chapter 4, verse number 17. I'll give you time to get there. 1 Peter chapter 4, verse number, we'll start with verse 12. We'll start with verse 12. So it says in verse number 12, Beloved, do not think it strange concerning the fiery trial, which is to try you, as though some strange thing happened to you. But rejoice in the extent that you are partakers of Christ's suffering, that when his glory is revealed, you may also be glad with exceeding joy. If you are reproached for the name of Christ, blessed are you, for the Spirit of God and God rests upon you. On their part he is blasphemed, but on your part he is glorified. But let none of you suffer as a murderer, as a thief, an evildoer, or a busybody in other people's matters. So I want you to see what God is going to say here, and I want you to look at this. He says, let none of you suffer as a murderer, a thief, an evildoer, or a busybody in other people's matters. And so he started out by talking about suffering for Christ, suffering for God, suffering for what was right. But now he's transitioned to, this is what you don't do. That's what you do. If you suffer like that, don't worry about it. But what you don't do is be a busybody. What you don't do is be in other people's matters. What you don't do is be an evildoer. What you don't be is a thief or a murderer. And so verse 16, he says, yet, if anyone suffers as a Christian, let him not be ashamed, but let him glorify God in this matter. Verse 17 is where we want to look at, 17 and 18. For the time has come for judgment to begin at the house of God. And if it begins with us first, that will be what will be the end of those who do not obey the gospel to God. Now, if the righteous one is scarcely saved, where will the ungodly and sinner appear? So we're talking about obedience, right? Watch what God says here. Or watch what Peter says here. For the time has come that judgment will begin at the house of God. And if it begins with us first, what will the end of those who will not obey the gospel of God be? So once again, God is strict on obedience. God is strict on us obeying his commands. And so he says, house of judgment is going to start in the house of God. It's going to start with us. That's why we have to make sure that we are right. We have to make sure that we don't do what preceded chapter 17, verse 17. Is not being busybodies. Verse 16, 15. Not being busybodies, not being murderers, not being evildoers, not being in other people's matters. Why? Because God going to judge us. God going to deal with us on whether or not we are obedient to him. And what does it look like to be obedient to God when it comes to the church? God is about us being unified. God is about us using our gifts. God is about us using our talents. He's about us putting the kingdom first and before other things. And so he's going to deal with us according to how we deal with him and deal with the kingdom and how we deal with other people and how we handle relationships. But then also, he said, where were those who do not obey the gospel of God? So we harp on and we talk about how God is a good God, a merciful God, and a gracious God. But we also got to realize that God is a God of vengeance. God is a God of wrath. God can be a God of anger. And so that's why we warn people. That's why we try to persuade people to become members of the body of Christ, to be saved, because when the wrath of God comes on judgment, where will those people be that don't obey the gospel of God? And so now we want to kind of switch it, and we want to look at what obedience should do. If you are confident in your relationship with God, if you are confident in your relationship with Christ, then we see and we understand what obedience should do. Obedience to God should groom confidence. It should welcome confidence. We should be pouring over with confidence because we're obedient to God. We should have confidence. That's why the Bible says in Hebrews, that we should go to the throne of God with boldness. Why? Because God, I'm obedient to you. And so when something happens in my family, when something happens in my life, when something happens in the church, when something happens with my brothers or sisters, I need to pray for them. When something happens that for this country, I need to pray for it. When something happens to someone, I need to come boldly and pray. And Lord, I can come boldly because I'm obedient to you. Obedience gives me confidence to come to God. It's kind of like, if you think about a child, and I don't know about you, but there was a time when I got in trouble at school. And back in the day when we grew up, they could paddle in school. But not only did you get a paddling at school, But when you got home, you got another whipping and you got grounded. And I remember one time, I got a paddling in school, and the worst thing about paddling was they did it in the hallway so everybody could see. If you was in the hallway, everybody knew you was getting a paddling. And so I remember I got a paddling at school. And for this one day, it was bad. I was bad. And I said, I don't want to go home. I don't want to face what I got to deal with when I get home, because I don't want another whooping at home. Because that was the rule of the house. If you get in trouble and get a whooping in school, you get a whooping when you get home. And so we came into the home. But when I walked into the door, I always had an inviting home. I always had a welcoming home. Mother and father always made sure that we wanted to be home. But this particular time, when I walked in to the front door, I didn't have confidence. I did not have confidence because I had disobeyed my parents and got in trouble at school. And so when mama was in the kitchen cooking dinner, I didn't have confidence to walk in that kitchen and give mama a great big hug. So you know how we do, we kind of tiptoe in the door, hoping that don't nobody hear us, and we kind of skirmish across, hoping that don't nobody say nothing, and just hope that mama don't know, or just hope that mama's forgiving. Just hope mama shows some mercy. But I didn't have no kind of confidence that I was safe or secure. None. And then lo and behold, when dad come home and you hear the door open and you in the back room, you hear him come in the house, usually we'll run and jump on him. Hey dad, welcome home. But this day I didn't have no confidence to run and jump on dad. Come on, y'all been there before. You know you was in trouble, you didn't have no confidence. This is what God is trying to get us to understand. That when you are disobedient, when you are not right, when you don't follow my commands, you don't even have confidence to come to me. You don't even have confidence to do the things you need to do, the things I've empowered you to do, the things I've equipped you to do, all because of your disobedience. That's the trick the devil plays on us. The devil doesn't want us to have confidence in God. I know I said we're going to Genesis chapter 22, but I want to show you something here in Genesis. Let's turn back over to Adam and Eve. I want to show you this play out in this confidence in what I was just saying as a child. And I know we've all experienced that one way or another. Even as parents, you experience that with your children. But I want to go back to Genesis chapter 3 and experience this and watch this. Look at Genesis chapter 3, verse number 9. Let's go to verse number 7. I'm sorry. Verse 7. This is after they ate of the fruit. This is after Eve had talked to Adam and talked him into doing it. Look at verse number 7. Then the eyes of both of them were open, and they knew they were naked, and they sewed fig trees together and made themselves coverings. And they heard the sound of the Lord God walking in the garden the cool of the day. And Adam and his wife hid themselves from the presence of the Lord God among the trees of the garden. Did Adam and Eve have confidence? See, disobedience would not allow you to have confidence in the presence of God. Disobedience would not allow you to have confidence when you're in the presence of God. The Bible says that they hid themselves from God. This is the beginning of creation. This is people that knew God and knew that God had created this whole beautiful garden for them. God had gave Adam everything that he could desire, everything that he needed. Gave him food, gave him a place to live, gave him a home, gave him a beautiful wife. Gave him dominion, gave both of them dominion over all the animals. Gave them charge over all the earth. And because they became disobedient to God and sin, that's what sin will do. That's what disobedience will do. It don't take a lot of times, one time. The devil knows if he can get you to smoke that crack pipe, or he can get you to shoot that needle in your arm, or he can get you to take one sip of alcohol, he knows that you may be hooked for the rest of your life. One time. Because you was obedient to God, disobedient to God. And so, look at this. They hid themselves from the presence of God. And the Lord called Adam and said, where are you? Verse 10. So he said, I heard my voice in the garden. I heard your voice in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked and hid myself. And God says, and he said, who told you you were naked? Have you eaten of the tree which I commanded you, you should not eat? In other words, have you been disobedient? Why did you hide yourself? We never had a problem talking. You never hid when I came to talk to you in the garden. Disobedience is a dangerous thing. Sin is a dangerous thing. Don't let the devil play on your heartstrings that everything will be all right. Disobedience makes you afraid of God, makes you hide from God. It don't give you that confidence that you need when you need to talk to God. That's why we need to make sure we live in a life of obedience. Because I don't know when I need to go to talk to God. I don't know when it is going to be when someone calls and says, Brother William, can you pray for me? And I need to be right with God so I can pray. I don't know when something happens to one of my children and I just need to be able to say, Lord, help my child. I don't know when I'm going to be in a situation where I have to be able to say, Lord, have mercy. I don't have no time for a Lord Jesus, hallowed be thy name, and Father of the earth, and God, we thank you for everything and waking me up. I may not have time. I may not have time to do nothing but say, Lord, have mercy. But I need to make sure that I'm encouraged and I'm grounded. I need to make sure I'm obedient so that when I need to say that, I can go to God and say that no matter what happens in life, no matter when it happens in life. And that's how we want to always live our life, is so we have confidence. And so tonight, that's what we're talking about, is confidence that obedience gives you, the confidence that it gives you to do what you need to do. Now we go to Genesis chapter 22. Genesis 22. And we look at this confidence in action. And we talk about this in Genesis 22, and we talk about Abraham. And when we look at this and we see that God tells Abraham to go take Lot. I don't need to read the whole chapter because we know the story. But God tells Abraham to go and take Lot, his only son, take him up to the mountain and sacrifice him. Think about it for a moment. Think about it. If God came to you and God asked you to take your child that you love and take him and sacrifice him up on the mountain, would you have confidence enough to do that? Would you have confidence enough to do that? I thank God that God don't ask us to do stuff like that these days. I thank God that he doesn't ask us to sacrifice that kind of way these days. He doesn't ask us to prove our faith to him these days, to conform our faith to him this way. Now, he does give us challenges, but I thank God that he never came to me and said, Brother Williams, take Joshua. Brother Williams, take Titus, or take Angel, or take Kamisha, and sacrifice them on this mountain. Because I don't know if I could kill my own kid. But Abraham breathed with enough confidence because of his obedience to God that he followed through with what God told him. And in the Bible, we know the story as he was going up, and they tell him, he tells the young men that's with him, y'all stay here. And watch this confidence here. Obedience breeds confidence. Watch this confidence. Y'all stay here while the lad and me go, and we'll be back. Y'all stay here. Now, Abraham, God told him, take your son and sacrifice him. But Abraham tells them, y'all stay here, and me and the boy will be back. The more I study this story and the more I study the context of this, I used to wonder what the conversation was like between Abraham and Sarah. Because lo and behold, you know that you can't get up and say to your daughter, your wife, God told me to sacrifice my son. I'm taking him to the mountain and kill him this morning. But the Bible said early that morning, Abraham got up. the more I study this and understand this, the more I see Abraham's confidence in God because of his obedience to God, I don't think Abraham and Sarah had a conversation. I think Abraham got up before Sarah, and him and Isaac went on their journey because he had enough confidence in God to know that if God took his son, God could raise his son. He had enough confidence in God to know that if I stay obedient to you, you can't let this misery come on me and my family. After all, you gave me this promise. After all, you told me I was going to have a child, and me and Sarah were going to have a child in our old age. After all, you told me I was going to have a seed of a great nation. So God, because of my obedience to you, all your promises got to come true. And they got to come through Isaac. See, sometimes our obedience gives us confidence because we can trust in who God is. Our obedience gives us confidence because we can believe that God is true and God's word is true and what God said is true. Sometimes our obedience gives us confidence because God, you cannot lie. And so I don't believe that Abraham had a conversation with Sarah. Now, brother, let me stop here. I've been teaching and preaching long enough. Brothers, I'm not advocating that you don't communicate with your wife. That ain't what I'm saying. In this instance, in this context, in this situation, I am saying that Abraham, I don't believe, had a conversation with Sarah because he knew Isaac would return. So there was nothing for him to talk about. And so he told the young men, y'all stay here. Me and the lad will go and we'll be back. Confidence. Obedience brings confidence. Confidence. We coming back. I'm not coming back by myself. We coming back together. And then when he gets up there, Isaac, his own son, says, Daddy, I see the rope. I see the wood. Where's the sacrifice? Watch this confidence again. Abraham says, son, God will provide. Church, that's where you have to have your obedience. That's where you have to have your allegiance. That's where you have to have your confidence in knowing that whatever God asks you to do, whatever God asks you to go through, whatever God asks you to yield to, he will provide you the right way out. He will never put you in a situation that's compromising. He will never put you in a situation where he asks you to be obedient and doesn't give you the tools to be obedient. He will never put you in a situation where he asks you to be obedient and he doesn't give you the instructions on how to be obedient. He will never put you in a situation where he asks you to be obedient and he doesn't give you the resources to help you be obedient. Think about that. God would never ask you to be obedient to something that he doesn't give you the instructions on how to be obedient to. That's why, as we look at this, as we talk about obedience, we can look at obedience in a negative context if you choose to. I choose to look at obedience in a positive context because I can get more from God and I can get more of God's grace and mercy and I can get more of God's favor if I stay obedient to him. Then I can get the negative part of things in life if I stay obedient to him. Now, if I stay disobedient to God, then I can expect things to come. That was what he was trying to tell the children of Israel in Deuteronomy. When he said, this day I've set up two ways of life, blessings and curses. Choose life that you and your descendants most may live. He was saying, choose to be obedient so that you can have blessings and not have curses. Choose to be obedient so that I can continue to bless your life. That's what God's telling us, church. That's what I want you to leave with tonight. Don't look at obedience to God as being negative. Look at it in the positive context. That if I'm obedient to God, God will continually bless my life. And if he blesses my life, he blesses the life of those around me. Obedience breeds confidence. May God bless you, and may God keep you. Let us pray. Father God, we thank you for this day and your blessings, Lord. We thank you for this opportunity we have to come and study your word. We come and pray, Lord, that you will bless us tonight and bless this Bible study class, dear Lord. We pray that everything will be acceptable to you, and we pray, Lord, that we will take this and apply it to our lives. Father, keep us and guide us in all things. Forgive us for our sins. Forgive us for our shortcomings. Continue to bless Sugar Creek, dear Lord, in all the things that we do, but not just Sugar Creek. Continue to bless all our churches throughout the brotherhood. This is our prayer. We ask in Jesus' name. Amen.